Hi, welcome back to Create, Share, Inspire podcast. This is episode 640. I'm Kristin Omdahl, and we are here live in Southwest Florida in my beautiful tropical backyard. If you are joining me live, please say hello. Let me know if you're crafting. Let me know if you have questions for me. Hi, Trina. It looks like we had a little bit of connection issue, but I think we're fine now. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Pam. Hi, Sean, Naomi, Patricia. Good morning, everybody. Can you see and hear me okay now? We had a little bit of a glitch. Hi, Grace. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Create, Share, Inspire podcast. This is episode 640. Hi, Marie. Good morning. Hi, Ruth. Hi, Chantel. Hi, Diane. Out in the beginning, I think it's better now. In fact, it only cut out once for me, but my screen did completely freeze at first. Hi, Joyce. Hi, Chris. Hi, Janet. Hi, Katina. Oh, I'm wearing different colored glasses this morning. What do you guys think of these? They come in the same 5-pack as the light blue and clear frames that I wear, but these have black frames and tortoise shell sides. What do you think of these? Do you like these too? Joe wants to know what I'm knitting. I am knitting a belt for my new knit dress. I have the pieces finished, front and back finished. They're done. They're knit. They're blocked. They haven't been sewn together yet, and I'm making a little reversible belt to. I'm making a little reversible belt to wear with it. So what I did, reversible, because it's I did 8 stitches in 1x1 ribbing so that it's identical on both sides. And the reason I did that is so that when you tie it around the waist, it doesn't matter what size your ties end up dangling down, they'll be identical on both sides. So I just want it to be a good length so that it can wrap all the way around my belly and still dangle down a little bit. But I can show you what it'll look like on the dress. The dress isn't sewn together yet, but you can still get an idea. Obviously this would shorten up the dress a little bit, but we're getting there. My waist isn't this skinny, so I'll still need a little bit more. And I have not sewn the sides up yet. Now, if you wanted to keep this as a tunic instead of a dress, it might be really awesome to do some corset ties down the sides here. If you wanted to stick with knitting, you could do I-cord. If you wanted to do something a little bit quicker, you could do crochet chains for sure. And you could sew just from the armhole opening to maybe just the hip bone range, and then leave the rest of this open. I'll see, wouldn't that be really sexy to leave it as a longer tunic like that? Or as a beach cover-up, that would still be cute too. I'm thinking that I'd like to have the option of wearing it as a dress, so I'm thinking about sewing it from the armhole opening all the way down to the hemline. But those are the options that you have when you make something in 2 pieces. Thanks, everybody. I'm glad you like the tortoiseshell glasses. It's definitely a different look. I'm not used to wearing dark frames on my face, but hey, I'd rather be able to see than not see. Thank you, Carrie. Yes, I'm wearing my Sweet Clara dress in colorway Periwinkle of Be So Sporty yarn over the Amazon dress in turquoise. Now, I couldn't find my light colored belt this morning. I would probably have worn the natural or nude belt, but this was the only belt that I could find quickly because I was in a rush. I've been working all morning and, ended up getting ready quickly for the show. But I absolutely love combining different bright pastels together. I have the underdress, the turquoise dress. I have it in coral too. Coral would be beautiful under here. And notice how when you belt the lace overlay dress, it does shorten it a bit. So you want to keep that in mind for whatever length your underdress is. I would prefer to always keep the overlayer longer than the underlayer, at least longer or same length. I do not like the look as much when the underlayer is longer than the outer layer. Does that make sense? overlayer. I think I said that all wrong, but I think you know what I mean. I definitely love the colors combined together, though. I think it's so festive, so fun and cheerful, kind of stuff that brings a smile to people's face when you walk down the street, right? You don't see people combining bright pastels very often, and it is such a cheerful look. So I definitely encourage it, and these are all things that you can find. I have all sorts of beautiful yarns in bright, fun colors, and all these dresses that I show you that I wear as underlayers also come in bright, fun colors. White looks great under here. Off-white looks great under here. Any of the pastel colors. And then as you've seen also, wearing tone on tone, matching your underlayer looks amazing. The other day I wore a turquoise Sweet Clara vest over this turquoise dress, and that tone on tone looks amazing. You've seen me wear this purple Sweet Clara dress over a purple dress that matches. So that tone on tone is amazing as well. This would be fantastic for a beach cover-up if that's what you're interested in. I know I would, in a heartbeat, wear this as a beach cover-up over a bikini at the beach. I love crochet dresses as cover-ups too. Thank you, Judy, for sharing all the links for everything that I've talked about so far. And if we have time today, I thought I might show you how I start sewing the dress together. I'm going to sew it at the shoulder seams first, and then I'll sew from the sides down. I also wanted to show you a little bit more about the belt that I'm doing. You know, as you know, my kitties are very well behaved and don't mess with yarn, which I don't even know. What kind of sweet angelic kitties do I have that don't mess with yarn? Anyway, I no sooner say stuff like that, and I actually was working on this belt late last night watching TV and left this on the couch with this right next to it on the couch. And this morning I found a very giant yarn party all over the floor. They had taken part, like, this was just coming out of the middle, it wasn't wrapped. This is all that I found on, all those wraps is what I found on the floor. So they had taken the string from the middle between the knitting needles and the ball, and they'd run with it into where my piano is and wrapped it around the piano bench legs a couple of times, then went around a coffee table and just went nuts with it. So this morning, as I'm pulling all of it back in and wrapping it around my ball, I discovered that the stitches had come off the knitting needles. Now, I don't know if they came off the knitting needles while they were having their fun or while I was frantically trying to grab everything and put it back together. So they definitely had a yarn party. I don't know if they knocked the stitches off the needles or if I did, but it happened. And what I wanted to show you this morning is how different knit one purl one ribbing looks when it's fallen off the needles, and how you put those stitches back on the needles. So what I thought I could do, I would like to use the table for this. So we move some stuff back. Get my water spot, my cups condensation. Okay. So I'm going to make a little room on the table and see what we can do here. Okay, let's see. How does that look? Does that look pretty good? Is that pretty close to the table? I'm just going to look up at my computer for a second and get a yes or a no from anybody to let me know if this is a good spot for showing what I want to show. Does that look pretty good? Just going to wait for a yes or no. Anybody can chime in. Just let me know what you think, if this is a good spot. Thank you, Lily. I got a yes. Okay, so are you ready? I'm going to pull. I know this is going to look stressful to some people, but I am going to pull my stitches completely off of my needle. Oh, there we go. Okay, so what I want to show you here is that in ribbing, the stitches present themselves differently. Is that real good on the camera? I'm gonna wait a second. Anybody want to say yes or no and let me know if that looks good? Thanks, Naomi. Okay, good. So what happens here is the stitches present themselves differently. See how the purl stitches actually go, the knit stitches are front, the purl stitches are back. I'm going to exaggerate this a little bit because this is actually what they are doing. So we've got our knit stitches here and our purl stitches back there. Knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. So when you're putting them back on the needle, it is important to grab them in the right direction so that they get back on your needles in the right way. Now, if you're having a hard time doing this, remember we've talked about this before. Oh, am I still on camera? What you want to do is grab a smaller set of needles. If the act of putting your stitches back on the needle is stretching those stitches and stretching them to the point that the adjacent stitch that hasn't been picked up yet ends up unraveling, go down to a smaller needle. And I mean a much smaller needle. I think I'm using 6s here, which is 4 millimeter. Go down to a 3, go down to a 2, go down to a sock needle, go down to whatever you need to do to just get into those stitches to stop them from dropping. It's not going to affect your gauge. You're just getting something in there to lock them in place. So it does not matter what size you use for picking up drop stitches like that. Does that make sense? Hi, Charles, welcome. Does anybody have any questions about that or want to see me do it again? I don't mind. It's not that difficult to do. If you would like to see it a second time, I don't mind dropping them off a second time because, like I said, it's not that difficult to do once you know what to do. And if they ever look like they're getting tight and pulling out the stitch next to it, always go down in needle size and you'll have so much more success. But I'll wait a second here and see if anybody has any questions or needs to see anything again. You can always go back and watch the replay as well. Yes, always best not to panic when your hook or needle comes out of the stitch. And if you do panic, don't beat yourself up for panicking either. Walk away. Just put it in a secure spot. Don't leave it out in the open where kitties can make it worse, or doggies, or whatever you have. Or little kids. If you need to walk away from it, make sure it's in a secure place where it can't be compromised by some other living being. And at that point, walk away, go cool off, take a break, whatever. It's okay to panic if that's your natural reaction to it, as long as you bring yourself back to normal before trying to fix it. Yes, Carrie, and it's okay if you panic. Don't beat yourself up if you panic. It is a natural reaction to panic when you come across something you don't know how to fix. That's okay. The key is recognizing your panic, acknowledging it, and walking away until you're not feeling that way again. These needles here are old needles. These are Lantern Moon. I believe they're discontinued now. Normally, I prefer to use Adi Turbos, but I just pick up whatever I can find sometimes. These are bamboo needles. Personally, I prefer the speed of metal needles, like the Adi Turbo ones. I really like how fast they are, but bamboo needles are great. And if you're learning something, bamboo has a little more friction than metal, so it does help you a little bit when you're new or beginning. We have new crafters this morning. That's wonderful. I did not catch any new names other than Charles, but thank you to everybody who's joining. Judy's posting a link to some Adi Turbo needles that I use in my Amazon shop. I use the 16-inch circulars for sleeves and hats and little things. I like 24-inch circulars for medium projects. And then if I'm doing magic loop, I prefer 40-inch circulars. And we will talk more about magic loop in the near future when I have some projects to show you. I am in the process of finishing, well, I'm not close to finishing. I'm in the process of making a pair of socks with Be So Soulful yarn on 40-inch circulars so that I can knit both socks 2 at a time with the magic loop method. Isn't that cool? So got a ways to go on those yet. They're not close to being done, but still, that's why I like 40-inch circulars for doing this type of thing. 40-inch circulars, you can use magic loop for either doing 2 at a time for small things, or you could also use that size to do magic loop for one thing. So let's say you're doing a shawl that has an enormous amount of stitches on the lower rows. If you're doing a top-down increase, the width is very helpful for that, and also for that length is helpful for that. Or if you're doing a lengthwise scarf or stole or rectangular shawl, then having that width is really important for that as well. If you're doing and anything in between, like if you're doing sweater pieces or a sweater in the round, you would still go back to magic loop if that circumference is a little too big for whatever you're making. It all just depends. Yeah, 2 socks at the same time is fun, Dory. It's nice because I think it eliminates some of the mistakes that you might make along the way, like miscounting how many rounds you do for different sections of the socks. I think it helps you to be consistent on between the 2 socks. And it certainly helps with, what's that syndrome called? One sock syndrome, where you lose motivation after making one and don't feel nearly as motivated to make the second sock. It's a thing. It happens to a lot of people. Hi, Ramya. Thanks for joining live. Wow, it's hot out here even with a fan this morning. I feel like the fan's blowing hot air at me. What Adi tip do I use? I think I've used all of them. I don't have a preference per se. I know I've used Rocket, I know I've used lace, and I know I don't know. I think I use all of them. I really just order based. The tip doesn't really matter to me that much. I'm more concerned about the smoothness of the needle for going quick, and I'm concerned about the length of the circulars. I really don't. I know some of them are sharper and some of them are blunter. Yes, the sharp ones are the lace ones, and I can't remember what Rocket is, but I'm fine with all of them, so it doesn't matter to me. But if you want the blunt ones, I would definitely stay away from the lace tip. I believe that's the sharper one. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me, but I know that they do have several blunt sharp options in the tips, and if you look at the shopping pages on Amazon, they definitely explain all of that on there. It's just something that doesn't concern me personally in my knitting style, but if it does, I would definitely check out those details in the bullet points. Yeah, the regular Adi turbos are blunt. That is correct. I think I definitely like those. I haven't had an issue with the Rocket ones, and I don't know what makes Rocket. Some of them have smaller needle lengths, and but you can find all that stuff there. I believe I prefer blunt to the lace, but again, it doesn't bother me. Hi, Angela. Oh, how fun. We have people from all over the world here this morning, and everybody's comparing what time of day it is. That's cool. Yeah, if you have the needles that you like, Thea, that's perfect. Me too. I have the needles that I like. How does magic loop differ from regular circular hook? We're talking about knitting, not crochet, Constance, so I don't know if maybe you're confusing the two. There's no hook involved in magic loop. Magic loop is a technique for making smaller circumferences with a larger knitting needle by pulling out some of the cord. See? So you're pulling out some of the cord to work back and forth. And I'll do more of a tutorial on that once I have a finished project. She means a needle. Okay, so what's the difference between magic loop and regular knitting? It's still, the knitting is exactly the same. The difference is that you're able to do circular work in smaller circumferences. Like, okay, to do the circumference of a sock, you're not doing that on a 16-inch circular. You're not doing that on a 24-inch circular. You're doing that on something either incredibly tiny, which could be difficult or impossible to do, or not even available, or you would end up doing this on double pointed needles, or on or working straight and flat and having to sew it together. It's just another option for sewing smaller circumferences with a larger needle. That's it. The knitting is exactly the same. The instructions are exactly the same. You could do this pattern in any style. You could do it on double points. You could do it on a small set of circulars. This is just an option for using a larger circular in more ways, which I think is interesting, especially if you're on a budget for investing in knitting needles. Instead of buying knitting needles in every circular length, buying 16s, 24s, 32s, 40s, and 60s, you could actually get a lot of the things that you would want to get done on the 40-inch circulars or the 60s if you learn how to do magic loop. It'll allow you to do smaller circumferences and larger circumferences and working big shawls all with one size. So I think it's interesting for multi-use, which is good for a budget. Whoever said that, Nancy, you must have been using the lace ones then. Normal, regular Addies, regular Addi turbos are blunt. They're not sharp at all. But whatever you like is good. Yes, Ruth, hand knit socks are awesome. I agree. And you can make them custom to your feet or whoever's feet you're making them for. Yes, it's a great technique to have in your arsenal. Absolutely. Okay. Flexi flips. I have never heard of that. I don't know what that is. Is that a type of tool? Or a knitting needle? I'm not sure. I'll wait and see what comes up because I've never heard of that, so I'm curious too. What's a flexi flip? Cannot believe how warm it is out here. Hi, Donna. Needles. Maybe they're flexible. Ah, knitting needle for socks. Got it. Okay. Ah, they're made by Addi too. Okay. Yeah, no, never heard of them. You know, sometimes we just know what we know, right? Oh, enjoy it, Chris. Ramya wants to visit the USA. That would be fun. You've never been? Oh, I said we were going to get started on this, and I forgot. We could definitely start sewing the shoulder seams on the dress. Does anybody want to see me sew the shoulder seams on the dress? You notice that I didn't really talk about interchangeable sets either. I'm not a super huge fan of interchangeable knitting needles. The only kind that I do like are the Addi Turbos because they come with a locking mechanism, not just a screwing mechanism. And I find that over the years I have had several different types of interchangeable sets, and it was the only set that I liked because the stitches do not fall apart. The cords never come off of the needles until you want them to. However, I prefer standalone circulars to interchangeables. just being honest, I find that I lose them too much. And once you lose a cord, then you're lost, you know, once you put something with a project and you can, and they fall up and you can't find the cord again, if it only comes with 3 cords, I'd rather have a cord for every needle. So, but that's my personal preference. Because I like to do multiple projects at once also. Okay, so let's see if we can get this closer. Maybe bring it down. Can this get shortened? I think so. Or is that as low as it goes? If that's as low as it goes, I can move this up instead. Okay, so to do this for the camera, I have placed my stitches on the dress form. You could also do this flat on a table, but it was here, and I thought it was interesting to show it to you this way because I have the dress form and you can see the visual of what it's supposed to look like. So I'm going to sew the first couple inches from the shoulder seam together, and I start by just inserting my yarn and tying it into a knot. And this piece here, I'll end up weaving in that loose end when I'm done. Okay, and so I'm going to pick up a couple of stitches from the back. And then a couple of stitches from the front. Actually, a couple of threads. So what I'm looking for is to just literally pick up 2 threads. There's 2 threads crawling over, passing over my yarn needle. You don't want to catch your tail, so we'll get the tail back to the right side here. Okay, and you're just going to alternate back and forth. Notice the right sides are facing, and this is going to give me an invisible seam on the right side, and there'll be a little bit of a seam, a little bit of a bump on the wrong side, but I don't mind that. I'd rather it look continuous on the front and have a little bump on the back. And you want to take your time and make sure that you're consistently doing the same number or same amount of linear space on each side, because what will happen is if you're picking up too much the first on one side and not enough on the other side, you'll end up being you'll end up having too much of this seam picked up and not enough of this, and you won't meet up at the same spot here. So does that make sense? So like, let's say I was being a little more aggressive when picking up stitches on this side than I was on this side. I'd get to this point before on this side before getting here. So what if, see, they're even right now, but what if I was all the way up to here for this side and I was still down to there on that side? That's not even anymore. See what I'm saying? So it's really important to make sure that you're very consistent in how much space, how quickly you're moving along on each side. And if this seam were longer than a couple of inches here, let's say the seam was for the side down here, I would use those split ring stitch markers, you know, that beautiful rainbow kit that I included in the crochet hook toolkit. That rainbow set of stitch markers is the split ring kind, and the reason why I like split ring stitch markers for both knitting and crochet is because they're great for marking seams for sewing too. You can do them for all sorts of marking. All right, we can pull these out now since we're getting close. And I'm also not going to weave in the loose ends on this shoulder seam yet. What I would like to do is leave it in place until I've tried it on to make sure I'm happy with my sewing needle, or my sewing seam length. Are you picking up the bind off of last row of stitches? Am I picking up the bind off? This is the top row of the pattern. So this was the cast on edge for both pieces. So I'm going to secure this with a with a little knot. Not going to go too crazy because I want to leave this in place now and not totally secure it because I want to make sure that I like this seam when I do both sides. But you can see there is my shoulder seam. It is invisible on the front, and there's a little bit of a seam on the back, but again, I don't think that's a big deal at all. And so there's the shoulder seam. So we've got one shoulder seam done, one to go. Once I have both shoulder seams done, I will be trying on the dress, make sure that I like the neckline, make sure I like the width of the sleeves, or the shoulder seams. I want to make sure that it covers my bra straps, right? No point in making something that doesn't work functionally for yourself. So I'll do the second side, try it on, make sure I like all that, then weave in the loose ends, and then figure out the armhole opening to sew up the side seams as well. And I'll either work on that later today, or I'll keep this around for doing more of the demo for you tomorrow. I could probably sew the second shoulder seam, bring it out to try it on for you to show you where I have options for adjusting for the seams. Because the thing is, patterns normally come with schematics that show you roughly where to put things for the different sizes, where you're going to put the shoulder seams, how wide you want them, how much opening you want for the armhole openings. But when you're making stuff for yourself, that's where you can customize things. So let's do that on camera tomorrow. I'll wear like a slip dress underneath so you can see how, regardless of what the pattern says, you can customize things to fit you personally, not just by the pattern. So yeah, done. That's what we'll do tomorrow. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy day to spend a few minutes here with me. I hope you enjoyed our knit surgery where we dropped all of our stitches and I showed you how to pick up stitches in knit ribbing. I hope you enjoyed seeing how to make a beautiful shoulder seam on this dress. I can't wait to finish it. It should be finished in the next couple of days now. Hope you enjoyed chatting with me and everyone else. Let us make time to create, share, and inspire today and every day. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Bye-bye.